Are all of my judges ready? My timer. Philosopher Soren Kierkegaard once said, "There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to believe what is true." Today, I'd like to share with you what the TV series Brain Games has taught me about our brains, of its ability to perceive and remember, and a few differences between men's and women's minds. All my material is from Brain Games, unless otherwise stated. So how easy is it for our minds to be fooled? Well, take a look at these two squares. Would you believe me if I told you that they were the same color? Sometimes God asks us to accept things that are hard to believe, like trying to believe these two squares are the same color. So, as you can now see, what I said was true. Because you saw, you believed. John 20:29. And Jesus said to them, "Because you've seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." The great eternal mind of God created man in his own image to be in communion with himself. Therefore, he had to create a mind in us that could communicate with him. However, as we just saw, our mind can be confused or tricked into seeing things that don't exist. It can also miss things. The reason the two squares looked different is because of the way they were shaded. Here's another example showing the same thing. Notice how these two squares look different, but really are the same. Let me show you another way our brain uses shading to process color. This cube is lighted from the top, and the side that is facing you is in the shade. But in reality, this isn't a 3D object at all. It's just an image on the board. Your mind may have tried to tell you it was a 3D object because it follows the patterns of shading your mind is used to seeing in the real world. Now, it may surprise you to know that the brown square on the top and the orange square on the side are really the same color. On the top, it's surrounded by brighter colors, making it seem darker in comparison. On the side, it's surrounded by darker colors, making it seem bright in comparison. Our brains use shading to give us clues, not only about color, but also in objects' place in space. As an illustration, this basketball looks like it is sitting on the floor, and a bit oversized. But if I move its shadow, it now looks like it is up in the air and a bit more normal. Our brain uses the size of an object to tell us its position in space. An object that is close appears to be larger than the same object that is far away. This picture of the railroad track illustrates this principle. Although the tracks are parallel in the real world, they appear to be wider nearby than those in the distance. Also, these two orange lines are exactly the same width. The reason why the top line appears to be longer is because it is farther away, whereas the bottom line looks shorter because it appears closer. Now, take a look at these two tables. Does one of them appear to be longer to you? Well, you will see that appearances can be deceiving. The table on the left appears to be longer than the table on the right. The reason why is because the lines on the table on the left appear to be receding into the background, making it seem longer than the one on the right. Does context mean anything to you? Now it will. Our brains use context to help give meaning to the sounds people create, also known as speech. The reason why context is so important is because some words can mean different things in different contexts. Take, for example, the word train. By itself, train is ambiguous. But if I put it into context, it can take on 3 different meanings. You can ride the train to Denver, have a train on your dress, or train a child in the way he should go. Images also have context. Take, for example, the cat. Notice in this example, the letters H and A are the same. Your brain had no trouble reading it. The reason why is because, in the context of the first word, your brain expects an H instead of an A. Same with cat. Part of what makes context work is your brain's ability to fill in missing parts of words. So when you look at half of this sentence, does your mind fill in the rest to tell you what it means? Now, you'd expect this to say, jumping to conclusions, right? It doesn't. Your mind may have tried to fill in all those half letters. It had no reason to believe it was all just a bunch of gibberish. Also, when reading, your mind doesn't read each letter. It reads as a whole. The main thing your brain would pay attention to would be the first and last letter. So let's move on to our brain's ability to remember. Now, you may think that your brain remembers everything that you see and hear. But 100 billion neurons is not enough room to store this much information. Your brain has a gatekeeper called the hippocampus. It can hold 5 to 7 items at a time, and from there it decides what to keep and what to throw out. Since long-term memory stores items as pictures, it might help the memory process to visualize the item that you're trying to remember. Say, for example, you want to easily remember the number 94. You could just think of a picture for each of the digits. The 9 could be a cat, since a cat has 9 lives, and the 4 could be a car, since a car has 4 tires. If you could picture a cat driving a car, you will remember the number 94. If you want to remember a lot, you could tell yourself a story of sequence. Say, for example, you're trying to remember a coffee cup, a watch, a hat, and an umbrella. Just take those 4 items and insert them into a story like this. I'm late. I shouldn't have stopped for this coffee. At least it isn't raining. I wonder if anyone will notice my new hat. In this example, you could easily remember those 4 items. And God created them, male and female. Genesis 2:1. So we would assume the minds of men and women to be different in many ways. Not that one sex is better than the other. It's just that we all have different strengths. I believe these strengths help us in our different God-given roles. For example, women can see a fine degree of color on the red-orange spectrum. Most men can only see about 4 or 5 shades of red in this picture. But most women can see all 7 shades of red. Perhaps women were given this ability to aid in food preparation, such as being able to spot the difference between a poisonous berry and a nutritious fruit. It is also interesting to note that 8 out of 100 men are colorblind, but only 4 out of 1,000 women are colorblind. Men are good at spatial analysis. In this puzzle, one must rearrange the shapes to create the object at the top. Men are more likely able to see the correct set, which I will demonstrate is the orange set. Also, when determining which sex is able to place objects into a finite space, such as a time test to pack the trunk of a car, men outscore women. Perhaps men were given this ability to help them take dominion of the earth by rearranging, organizing, and shaping their world around them. Men and women have different ways of processing directions. Men generally think directionally, like east and west, and women usually think relationally, like left and right. For example, a man might tell you to travel south for 1 mile, turn west, continue for a half mile, and you should find the destination on the north side of the road. For many men, this is an efficient way to get from near to far. But tell that to a woman, and you might as well tell her to go to Omsk. Omsk? Now, a woman might tell you to turn right at the first stoplight and continue on until you see the park on the left. The store should be on the right, next to the large sign. Now, women with their left hand and right hand signals makes them feel very comfortable and happy. But to many men, it will be about as muddled as this picture. Despite our differences, we have amazing brains. However, it can be tricked and fail to remember. So how can we know truth? For there is one whose mind is perfect. Since we were all created in his image, we should try to study and analyze our world to see what's true and what's not in the light of God's word. Then, despite the fact that our minds are fallible, we do have something to lean upon as truth. Thank you.